Hello dear students, this is Dr. Shabana Begum presenting a talk on the topic primary and secondary productivity in an ecosystem pertaining to BSc Zoology 5th semester under the paper entitled Environmental Biology and Ethology. The content of the paper being the introduction to productivity, the types of productivity, and the environmental factors affecting productivity. The learning objectives are to define the terms primary and secondary productivity and to explicit different types of primary productivity. So, in my previous lecture on energy flow in the ecosystem and the laws of thermodynamics, I have discussed about the definition and importance of energy, the flow of energy, that is the light energy, through the various organisms or trophic levels of food chain, the two laws of thermodynamics, 10% law proposed by Raymond Lindemann in 1942, pyramid of energy, and the energy flow models. Today, before explaining about the types of productivity, let me give you a gist of the concept of productivity which can be used to explain the laws of thermodynamics. In fact, the concept of productivity is a good example to understand the energy flow through an ecosystem. So you can say an ecosystem will have producers, consumers, and decomposers. The steps in productivity are the utilization of solar energy or reception of solar energy, food production by producers by the process of photosynthesis, consumption of organic matter by consumers, that is both herbivores and carnivores, and decomposition of organic compounds. As we all know, sun is the main source of energy for the ecosystem. The solar energy that reaches the earth gets modified as explained in the chapter dealing with light. Of the total energy reaching the earth, 34% is reflected, 10% is held back by the ozone layer. The remaining 56% reaches the earth's surface, of which the green plants are able to utilize only 1.5% of the light absorbed by the chloroplast for photosynthesis. So with this background, let me define productivity. So in ecology, productivity refers to the rate of formation of biomass in the ecosystem, and the biomass is the total mass in a unit area, that is at the time of measurement, a unit area of living or previously living organisms within a trophic level. Fine. You can always say that productivity of an ecosystem refers to the rate of production, that is the amount of organic matter accumulated in any unit time. The ecosystems have characteristic amounts of biomass at each trophic level. For example, in an ecosystem, the primary producers account for a biomass of 4 grams per meter square, while the primary consumers exhibit a biomass of 21 grams per meter square. So there are two types of productivities, namely primary productivity and secondary productivity. What is primary productivity? So primary productivity refers to the generation of biomass from autotrophic organisms such as green plants, higher macrophytes, phytoplanktons, and some photosynthetic bacteria. So one can define primary productivity as the rate at which radiant energy is stored by photosynthetic and chemosynthetic activity of producers. As I just told you, the producers can be the green plants, higher macrophytes, lower forms, phytoplanktons, and some photosynthetic bacteria, right? So again, you can say the photosynthesis is the primary tool for the creation of organic matter from inorganic compounds such as carbon dioxide and water. Primary productivity is further divided into gross primary productivity, that is GPP, and net primary productivity, that is NPP. The gross primary productivity is the total energy stored in the food materials synthesized by the green plants, or total rate of photosynthesis including the organic matter used up in the respiration during total photosynthesis or total assimilation. Hence, this is also called as the total photosynthesis or total assimilation. And gross primary productivity depends upon the photosynthetic activity and certain environmental factors. It also depends on the chlorophyll content. An example of gross primary productivity is the Silver Springs aquatic ecosystem, where the total energy accumulated by the primary producers was shown to be 20,810 kilocalories per meter square per year. Next is the net primary productivity. It is the energy that remains in the primary producers after accounting for the organism's respiration and heat loss. So you can always say the net primary productivity is also called as apparent photosynthesis or net assimilation. The rate of biomass increases, thus net primary productivity refers to the balance between gross photosynthesis and respiration and other plant losses as growth and reproduction. So NPP, that is net primary productivity, is equal to the gross primary productivity minus the energy lost during respiration. So also you can mention that the net primary productivity is the net energy stored in the plants. This energy serves as food for the animals that feed on plants, that is the consumers. It is measured as the amount of organic matter produced in a community in a given time. Annually, over 170 billion tons of net primary productivity occurs over the entire biosphere. The productivity can be measured. The primary productivity can be measured by several methods, and the measured values will give an estimate of how much energy has been stored in the plants. And some of the methods to measure the primary productivity are the harvest method, wherein the amount of grains or seeds are measured. Oxygen production method, here the amount of oxygen evolved is generally used for measuring primary production of aquatic plants. Carbon dioxide assimilation method, wherein the amount of carbon dioxide utilized for photosynthesis is measured. Next is the chlorophyll method. Here the chlorophyll content is measured. And finally the radioactive methods, wherein the radioactive isotopes are used and their uptake is measured to estimate productivity. Now let us discuss about the secondary productivity. So here The secondary productivity is the accumulation of energy at the consumer levels. It keeps moving from one organism to another, unlike primary productivity. And this process occurs as a result of organic materials being transferred between various trophic levels. It is also referred to as the rate of increase in the biomass of heterotrophs. Organisms such as the animals, fungi, bacteria, and numerous protists influence secondary production. The secondary productivity is not divided into gross and net productivity. Hence, Odum used the term assimilation rather than production at consumers' level. I told you a number of factors will affect the productivity. Some of them are the solar radiation and temperature, moisture, that is leaf water potential, soil moisture and precipitation fluctuation, and transpiration. Mineral nutrition, that is uptake of minerals from the soil, rhizosphere effects, fire effects, salinity, heavy metals, nitrogen metabolism. The biotic activities such as grazing, above ground herbivores, below ground herbivores, predators and parasites, as well as diseases of primary producers. Finally, the impact of human population, where pollutions of different sorts, ionizing radiations like atomic explosions, etc., affect the rate of productivity of an ecosystem. Apart from these, we have to know the three fundamental concepts of productivity, which are the standing crop, materials removed, production rate, etc. So it is the abundance. Which one? The standing crop. The standing crop is the abundance of the organisms existing in the area at any one time. It may be expressed in terms of number of individuals, as biomass of organisms, as energy content, or in some other suitable terms. So measurement of standing crop reveals the concentration of individuals in the various populations of ecosystem. Materials removed. The second concept of productivity is the materials removed, which is mentioned there, that is from the area per unit time. It includes the yield to man, organisms removed from the ecosystem by migration, and the material withdrawn as organic deposit. The third concept is the production rate. It is the rate at which the growth processes are going forward within the area. The amount of material formed by each link in the food chain per unit of time per unit area or volume is the production rate. Now at the end, let us understand the outcome of the study once again. So the first point you can mention, the productivity of the primary producers is especially important. Why? Because they bring energy to other living organisms by photoautotrophy. Productivity refers to the rate at which energy is accumulated by green plants in unit time in the form of organic substances that can be used as food. Productivity in terrestrial ecosystem is influenced by numerous factors such as carbon dioxide, light, temperature, water, moisture, nutrients, and soil texture. The most productive ecosystems are those with optimum levels of such factors, ultimately to maximize photosynthesis. So with this, I have just completed the discussion about the primary and secondary productivity. Now let me tell you one more important thing. So for the final year examination, MCQs will be asked. So some of the MCQs belonging to this particular topic are the first question, productivity of an ecosystem is affected by the options being availability of nutrients, sunlight and temperature, C, rainfall, D, all the above. So the answer will be D, all the above. That is, the productivity of an ecosystem is affected by availability of nutrients, sunlight and temperature, rainfall. The next question is the rate at which food energy is assimilated at the trophic level of consumers is known as option A, gross primary productivity, option B is secondary productivity, option C, net primary productivity, and D, none of the above. So can you guess the answer? So answer is B, option B. Then the answer is the secondary productivity. So you can say the rate at which food energy is assimilated at the trophic level of consumers is known as secondary productivity. The third question is the net primary productivity is, options are A, energy loss due to respiration, B, gross primary productivity, C, A minus B, that is energy loss due to respiration minus gross primary productivity, and option D is B minus A, that is the gross primary productivity minus the energy loss due to respiration. So the answer is D, that is B minus A. So you can say the net primary productivity is gross primary productivity minus energy loss due to respiration. One more question. The concept of productivity is a good example to understand A, energy flow through an ecosystem, B, trophic niche, C, habitat niche, and D, none of the above. So the answer being A, because we have just discussed the concept of productivity is a good example to understand energy flow through an ecosystem. So answer is A. One more question is on the efficiency rate of any ecosystem mainly depends upon the production rates of its. Options are A, decomposers, B, producers and consumers, C, food chain, and D, none of the above. So the answer will be B, that is option B, producers and consumers. Finally, the references. If you have any doubt, you can always refer these books for extra information. So thank you, girls.